Matthew, the average gun owner here, and I just want to make a quick note on the prosecution down in Harris County, Texas, where after the grand jury returned a no bill on homicide charges, the Harris County Prosecutor's Office put out a statement that I think people are kind of glossing over. And the statement was to the effect that they send all homicides to the grand jury because, quote, this process ensures that members of the community rather than the district attorney's office determine the appropriate outcome in all homicides in Harris County, end quote. So there's an issue here. So the grand jury is a constitutional protection against bringing prosecutions in serious felony cases where they're not warranted. Now, we've all heard the adage, a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich. And yeah, I mean, it's basically the prosecutor goes in, puts in the evidence that is in a manner more favorably in the light of the prosecution. And it's not a situation where the defendant is going to typically come in and put up all their defenses and argue the entire case in front of a grand jury. All it is a prosecutor saying, we have sufficient admissible evidence, or what they believe is admissible evidence, to make a prima facie case that a prosecution may be warranted. And then the defendant is left to raise their defenses and get an acquittal at trial. But the problem with the Harris County statement is, in this case in particular, you had an individual who was in a restaurant. Somebody came in and started robbing people at gunpoint, and this individual shot the robber, picked up all the money and loot that he was lifting from people, handed it back out to the patrons of the restaurant, and everybody, including the shooter, left the restaurant. Later on, we found out the gun wasn't real, which doesn't negate your ability to use lethal force in self-defense. And so I can see where the prosecutor, or there was a call in the community for a prosecution of this guy, and I can see where a prosecutor would be forced to send this one to a grand jury. But it was this blanket statement they said regarding all homicides that really should concern everybody. Because if you engage in lawful self-defense at a place like Polk County, Florida, Sheriff Grady Judd is going to have you up on a podium with him 12 hours later, and he's going to be handing you a key to the city. But if you run a city, municipality, county, or a state where you want to chill the effect and ability of people to engage in self-defense, and you want to scare them into leaving their firearm at home because, hey, if I use my firearm, I know the prosecutor's going to be all over me, and I know they're going to send this to a grand jury, and I know grand juries will indict a ham sandwich, and I'm not living in a county or a state where the prosecutor are going to look at the facts and say, yes, as applied to the law, this is a clear-cut case of self-defense, so that's it. We're going to drop the case. No charges are going to be filed. I think people are listening to what they said in Harris County and thinking, oh, yeah, it's okay for the prosecutor to just bring every potential case to a grand jury. Well, that's not how our criminal justice system works. And it actually is what I call the soft tyranny of abuse of discretion in order to say, well, I'm going to wipe my hands of this, and every case where I could send this to a grand jury and a group of 9 individuals who know nothing about the law, nothing about application of the facts to the law, just going to send it to them, going to present the facts in the light most favorable to us as the prosecution, and let them decide whether or not they want to bring a prosecution. I think that's abusive. And I think that is an abuse of power. And that's just the way for a prosecutor who doesn't believe in your right to self-defense or to use a firearm in self-defense, washes their hands of it to be able to say, well, we sent it to a grand jury. The grand jury made the decision, not us. That's a pretty cheap cop-out. Yeah, so I went on for another 6 or 8 minutes just ranting and raving about legal intricacies that nobody cares about. So I just cut that out. Apologize for that. Sorry for rambling on. But again, just, I don't post a lot, but when I see something I think other people are missing out on, I think it's worth getting the message out there, and that's why I put this video out. And I hope it's useful, and I hope you learned something from it. There are people out there that have more time and far better insight on the day-to-day legal wranglings in the Second Amendment community, or just right self-defense community in general, but I figure I'll get these comments and thoughts out there when I think they're relevant and useful. Again, Matthew, the average gun owner. Stay safe out there and stay informed.